All right, everybody, welcome. I appreciate you virtually coming to the class. This is number 5 of the online short course for the 2022 beekeepers class. Today, we're going to finally talk about actually manipulating the hive and what a beekeeper does the first couple weeks of having the colony of bees, building off of the basic biology, the seasonal cycle that we've reviewed in the last couple of talks. And this is this is the compounding class, a class that is going to cover information that assumes you know past information. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to do a brief review of the difference between packages and nukes or nucleus colonies. We're going to talk about installing your nuke, and then we're going to actually briefly talk about the ratio of sugar syrup, and then talking about the installing of the nuke. That's where the bulk of the talk will be. With this is really the first probably 5 to 7 weeks of having your bees is the information that will be covered today. So the main difference of packages and nukes are outlined here. The nukes in yellow and red in the top right, there's 5 frames of drawn comb. There's bees of all stages. So there's brood of all stages. There's eggs that are just being laid. There's pupa that are just emerging. There's foragers that are about to die of old age. There is a mated queen. They come in, so the ones that I sell are 5 frames of bees in brood. Nukes can come in as small as 2 frames, as large as, I'd say, pushing it is 7 frames, 8 frames of comb and brood and bees. When you get larger than that, then you become not really necessarily a nucleus colony, but more of a full-size colony. A package is a mated queen, and 3 pounds of adult bees. So there's somewhere in here a caged queen, and then 3 pounds of adult bees are shooken into the box or that screened crate. Both are extremely popular. I'm going to review the reasons why I use and I sell only nukes and not packages. The main issue with the packages are that there's no brood. So there's a mated queen, but you don't have the pleasure of getting bees of all ages. So the bees that are in that box are going to be shooken into your equipment, and then it's going to take 7 to 15 days for larvae to actually be there. 7 to 15 days have already passed, and the bees that are nurse bees have now aged out of being a nurse bee and no longer are technically nurse bees. They're adult bees, but they're not really nurse bees, leading to all kinds of nutrition issues, which leads to queen issues, and they're kind of compounding on each other. Pound for pound, the nucleus colony is worth your money, in the sense that, frankly, I've seen packages being sold for just as much as I'm selling nukes for. But with the nucleus colony, you're not just getting a box of bees. The queen that's in that colony knows the bees and is already accepted into that colony. You have brood of all stages. which is an extremely important aspect in the sense that they're you're going to have emerging adult bees in the coming weeks. So that population isn't just going to be replenished, but it will actually grow. You have adult bees at all stages. So you have nurse bees that are able to feed larvae, and you have foragers that are able to forage. All right. And then just the aspect of five frames of drawn comb. So jargon alert. Let me go back to the sugar syrup. Sorry that I didn't have this up front. Most of the equipment that you're purchasing from me outside of the nucleus colony is foundation. To your right is a photo of a foundation frame. To your left is a frame of drawn comb. You can see that they've built wax and they've created the cell. So on the left is comb or drawn comb. The process of turning that frame of foundation to your right into comb or drawn comb is the process of drawing comb. Just a bit of jargon that's used by beekeepers and something that I'm going to be using quite a couple times in this talk. Also, something that I'm going to touch upon. I'm going to be talking about feeding bees, and when I'm saying feeding bees, I mean feeding them sugar syrup. The sugar syrup could be a bunch of different ways. This is one of those things that you can start a fight at a beekeepers meeting about the different ratios of sugar and what constitutes like a spring sugar mix. I make my sugar on the heavier side. The 1-to-1 spring mix, I do it by volume. So 1 gallon of sugar put into a pot, 1 gallon of water put on top of that sugar, and then stirred until all of the sugar is dissolved into that water is a fair way to do it. It's totally fine to make it thicker. I wouldn't say to make it thicker to the point where you have to heat it, because once it cools off, that sugar is just gonna fall out of solution and not be in solution, which you want it to be. So 1-to-1 by volume is what I mostly mean in this talk. If you add more sugar, is much better than more water here going forward. So on day 1, when you get your nucleus colony, what you're going to do, it's going to be the evening when you pick up your bees. What you're going to do is you're going to go home and you're going to put your bees on top of the hive that you have already set up, or you're going to put it right next to the hive that you have already set up. And then you're going to go to bed. You're not going to take the frames out. You're not going to do anything else. You're going to take the bees and you're going to put them on top of the hive. If there is a plug, plugging the nukes, plugging the bees into that box, you do remove that plug. So that would be the only thing, so that they're able to leave the hive and stretch their wings and cool themselves off while they're in that box for the evening. The next day, you want to go into that hive and take your bees and put them into the full-size colony. I'm going to talk a bit about position of frames. All right. So starting from left to right, there's 10 frames in this box. Frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When we're talking about it, it doesn't matter if it's from left to right or right to left. It's just Frame 1 is always on the end. Frame 10 is always on the end. Frame 6 is always in the middle. So I'm gonna be talking about the position of frames, removing frame 1 or removing 4 through 8 kind of thing. So just a note on the frame position. Day 2, the next morning, you want to move all of the frames from your nuke into the box that you have into the full size equipment. So into your 10 or 8 frame equipment from that you have it sitting next from right now the bees are flying, so they're coming in and out of that nucleus colony, and you're going to move them into this full size box. This is something that's a little bit speedy. You're not doing a full inspection. You don't necessarily need to find the queen here. You very well could see her, but you're just simply taking the bees from your nuke and bringing it into the full size colony. So you notice here that both of the entrances are facing the same way. So when you move the nuke into the full size equipment, there's only the difference and adjustment of about 8 to 10 inches, or 8 to 10 inches, because if you place the bees on top of the hive, that they would have to adjust, which is not much at all. I opened up this hive, opened up the nuke, took off the lid, and I moved all the 5 frames from this nucleus colony into the full size colony. So the frame that was all the way to the right of this screen is now frame 3 in this hive, because I kept it all in the same order. So frame 1 is now 3, 2 is 4, 3 is 5, and so on. So I'm not mixing up the order of that the colony had structured. We're going to install a nucleus colony during the first field day. I'm overwintering a couple, and we're going to take bees from that nuke, and then we're going to put it into full size equipment that day, and the field day in April. After moving the frames, after moving all the frames from the nucleus colony into your full size colony, the additional 3 frames that to fill the space to make up 10 total, you're going to put all the way at the end. So frames 1 through 3 and 8 through 10 are completely foundation frames, while your nuke is right there in the middle. And that's key in the way that you're not taking a frame of foundation and you're putting it into the center of the nuke. The first day of management, that's not something that you want to be doing. It's something that will come. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But the first day, keeping everything in order is important. After that, you put your feeder on top of the hive. This is a Man Lake feeder. Your feeders that you're purchasing from me will look a little different. And then you're going to feed them. You're going to feed is something that I'm going to say often. This feeder here, there's 2 bays that you can fill with sugar. I think it takes like 2.5 gallons, 3 gallons. Bees are able to crawl up a little center tube here, and then they crawl on that screen and are enabled and are able to access the sugar. What you want to do here is take your box and shake any remaining bees that may be in that box, and then shake them right into the front of your hive entrance. something that because you're going to take your nucleus box and you're going to bring it away. That is a absent except for slide. Here you can see that the box is gone, and it has been gone since that first day. Shake all the bees out and put it inside your garage. I take a question really quickly. Oh, I'm going to answer that. After about a week, you're about every 7 days, you're going to take off your lid to see if they're consuming that corn syrup or granulated sugar. And it's going to look like this, only one box for about 2 to 3 weeks. The next slide, I'm going to add a box. So you're paying attention to the growth and and how they're moving onto your foundation frames. So you installed that nuke, and that's the nucleus colony is the orange. The blue is the brood of that nucleus colony. In about 2 or 3 weeks, what you can do is you can take frame 10 or 1 and take it, and you can put it right there in the middle of the hive. And what that would do is it would incentivize, and it will put that frame of foundation kind of like in their way. They're established, they're used to your area, and so that there's not that stress. And if you want to incentivize them to work on new frames, this is something that you don't want to do too soon, because breaking that brood in with the frame there, with only 5 frames of bees, they very well could not, they could get to the point where they're unable to keep the entire brood nest warm over some of the cool nights that we might get in those late April days. So you don't want to do this day 1 of moving your nuke into your full size hive because of those cold snaps that you may get. Excuse me. And that's so moving foundation into the center in about 2 or 3 weeks. If they seem like they're growing a little bit, that's something that you want to do. Also, in the first 2 or 3 weeks, you want to make sure that your colony is growing. After your nuke is only insured for 7 days, so actually that after about 7 days of feeding, you do want to open up your hive and make sure that you see eggs. If you see eggs inside of your hive, that means that your queen has been there within the last 3 days. So that's this. So if it's day 7 of you having your nuke and there's eggs, that means on at least day 4 of you having it, you had a mated queen. And so you can ensure that Patrick sold you a mated and a sound colony. That's just something that if you really buy bees from anybody, you want to make sure that within a certain amount, within 7 days, you let them know that you don't see eggs. Your first field day, I will put a frame of eggs into your hand, and you will tell me where the eggs are, and you will point to them, and you will leave the first field day knowing how to identify eggs, larvae, and capped brood. That's the most major goal of that first field day. So after a couple weeks now, they've filled out your entire bottom box. So the pink box here is full of bees and brood. They're working, and they are utilizing what would be called frame 1 and 10. So they need more space. So what you do is, while you're still feeding, okay, you're adding a second box. Excuse me. In the addition of this second box, it's because you're a first year beekeeper, your entire new box up here is entirely foundation. What you want to do is you want to take 2 frames of foundation and put it into the bottom part of the box, and take at least one frame of brood, one of which is open brood with larvae on it, meaning, and put it into that topmost box, that second box that you're adding. And then put the foundations down in your bottom one, in your pink. What that does is that will incentivize the colony to go up and feed that open brood and keep that open brood healthy. It's now probably, we're in May. We don't have we're not having cold nights. So there's no fear of them freezing at night. And this will simply incentivize them to grow into that topmost box. Then you fill out your box here with your foundation frames on either side. So, and then with that, after filling out the on either side with your foundation frames, the process of allowing that brood nest to grow. So as your brood nest grows to become frame 4 and then frame 3, and on at least one side, you're going to be taking frames from the outside, frames 1 and 10, and bringing them onto the inside, to putting that foundation in the way of them, to incentivize them to draw out more foundation. At this time, this is a perfect time to do an alcohol wash to monitor your mite levels. This is because you're adding a second box, your colony is strong enough to handle doing an alcohol wash. This is the time that I do my alcohol washes on my newly established colonies. So I have a lot of established colonies that are coming out of winter now, but also I keep about 5 to 10 nucleus colonies along with you guys that are purchasing the nucleus colonies. So to kind of be following along with you. So this is the time that I'm going to be doing an alcohol wash on the colonies that I didn't sell and I kept. So when do you stop feeding? So your brown box and your pink box is completely drawn. It's a booming colony. Your brown box has about 90% of all the comb that's in your brown in your second box is drawn out, or that they're working to draw out. As long as that is not after June 15th. I say that because as the summer goes on, they become less inclined to draw comb. So after June 15th, and especially after the 4th of July, they're not gonna draw comb as quickly. So if it's beginning of June and 90% of your combs are drawn and being worked on and/or being worked on, this is a time that you can stop feeding and add your honey supers. This is the reason for the second field day, which is in June. And the purpose of that is to covering the time after your bees are booming now. So to kind of give you the guidance and kind of give you a gauge as to what other hives look like, and to allow you to understand and compare. So I would say until 90% of your comb is drawn out or being worked on, if that's before June 15th. So that was actually much quicker than I thought it would go. And so I kind of want to open it up to questions, and I'll go to the chat. And Dennis, you had a question by email this afternoon, and I'd like to, if you can,
no information here, no CTO, no, and I didn't know about this button.
I don't remember what it was.